let's start with Russia, but take it from a little bit of a different perspective. What did we learn from Russia? What did we learn from what just took place? When you have an autocracy, whether it's an autocracy, a Marxist autocracy, or a fascistic autocracy, or whatever kind, you have the inability to have comity, comity. You have the inability to have quote-unquote bipartisanship. You have the inability to cooperate, and the inability, of course, to unite. So the long knives are out in Russia. Putin survived this one for now. This deal he made with the head of the Wagner Group is a facade. They're going to try and find him and kill him, as they will anybody who supported him. On the other hand, Putin can't kill everybody. And these are militia. They're not regular army. Now, they're all supposed to go home wherever home is. But at some point, some of them may decide to take out Putin or one of his men. We don't know. What we do know is it's not a free country. That's not the kind of country you and I want to live in. And they're all different kinds of tyrannies. We've talked about this. Sometimes we have tyrannies that are elected. Sometimes we have tyrannies of the mob. Sometimes we have tyrannies of the iron fist. One-man rule. All kinds of tyrannies out there. And all of them are a threat to a republic like ours. We have tyranny in our own country. We have an entity in our own country that embraces tyranny, often tries to camouflage it, but less so now, and that is more inclined towards totalitarianism than small r republicanism or constitutionalism. And that is today's Democrat Party. Now, there was a piece I saw in the Wall Street Journal that was actually quite brilliant by Barton Swain. It says President Biden's re-election announcement video warned that MAGA extremists are lining up to repeal bedrock freedoms. What freedoms? The extremists plan on, quote, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all by making it more difficult for you to be able to vote, unquote. It was a perfect expression of the paranoid state in which American progressivism finds itself. Excuse me, I wish they would stop using that word progressivism. It's Marxism. I will use it because it's his piece, not mine, but leave aside for a moment the line about dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, a euphemism referenced to abortion. The only threats on Biden's list, banning books, telling people who they can love, and voter suppression, are literally non-existent. Mr. Biden isn't engaged in the time-honored political craft of exaggeration. He's seeing things that aren't there. Liberal commentators have been ridiculing conservatives for fears. That is, fearing negligible or non-existent threats for as long as I can remember, he writes. Communist infiltration during the Cold War, Islamic extremism in the 2000s, illegal immigration in 2010s, gender ideology in the 2020s. The right might or might not have exaggerated the urgency of these problems, but they were or are problems. That is not the case with an array of issues Democratic politicians and progressive intellectuals, aka Marxists, are exercised about in 2023. You often feel they're so invested in the idea of a delusional right that they can't perceive their own penchant for dreaming up non-existent threats. And it goes on in a very excellent way. Does that does that article. Now, in connection with that, I want to link something up. Again, what's going on in our country? The Democrat Party. I mean, we have an election coming up. This is why there's no time than the present to be talking about these things. And then to link them into what's taking place in our country, as I'm going to do. There was a philosopher, he was a journalist, gentleman by the name of Raymond Aron, A-R-O-N. I've written about him before. I've talked to you about him before. He's a French philosopher. He's a great, great thinker. He said when a party, one party alone, has the monopoly of political activity, the state is indissoluble linked to it. That is, they're one and the same. In a multi-party regime in the West, the state boasts of not being circumscribed by the ideas of any competing parties. The state is neutral through the fact that it tolerates a plurality of parties. And I add, in the United States, it can now be said that the monopoly party, or at least the dominant party, is the Democrat Party. Indeed, the vast administrative state built mostly, albeit not exclusively, by the Democrat Party issues edicts, dictates, regulations, rules, fines, penalties that serve the ideological purposes of the Democrat Party, whether the Democrat Party is in power or not. This is me speaking. It requires the affirmative intervention of a Republican administration to roll back, stop, or replace the trajectory of administrative state power exercised on behalf of the Democrat Party. You call it the swamp, but it is what it is. The administrative state often seeks to sabotage Republican Party initiatives and policies, thereby countering the decision of the electorate in particular election cycle. Indeed, it can be said that the administrative state has essentially become a permanent appendage of the Democrat Party. That is the swamp, as you say. Consequently, even though elections are held, the Democrat Party has a permanent hold on major aspects of the government and policy making. The more powerful the central government becomes with ubiquitous tentacles, unlimited resources, increasing police powers, the more powerful the Democrat Party becomes. So Raymond Aron goes on. He says, in a one-party regime, the state is a party state, inseparable from the party which monopolizes legitimate political activity. If instead of a state of parties, a party state exists, the state will be obliged to restrict freedom of political discussion. This should all sound familiar to you now, folks. Since the state presupposes as absolutely valid the ideology of the monopolistic party, our case, the Democrat Party, it cannot officially allow this ideology to be called into question. In fact, the restriction on freedom of political discussion varies in degree according to the regimes of a single party. But the essence of a single party regime, in which the state is defined by the ideology of the monopolistic party, is not to accept all the ideas and to prevent some ideas relating to the party from being openly debated. Then I say this is where the Democrat Party is driving America. The power and control of the Democrat Party and allegiance to it and its ideology, above all else, is the ends. At least with regard, writes Aron, to those who do not belong to the monopolistic party, the party state, the Democrat Party, I'm arguing, is the party state. It's now the party state. Reserves for itself almost unbounded possibilities of action. Besides, if the monopoly is justified by the vastness of the revolutionary changes to be achieved, how can one ask the exercise of power to be moderate and even legal? It's exactly. Hence the Democrat Party's endless intrusions, I write, into our lives and self-righteous justifications for it. For those who love our country and the principles and values on which it was founded, the Democrat Party has pushed and dragged the nation into a disastrous and perilous place. Decades of usurpations of the Constitution, family, and faith. Look what's going on in New Jersey with parental control now. You actually have the governor and the attorney general suing localities to impose on them the right of the educational bureaucracy to keep from parents the so-called gender transitioning of their children. It's unbelievable. So I say decades of usurpations of the Constitution, family, and faith, and abuses of power and governance in support of a so-called progressive agenda, or more to the point, Marxist theories and models of ruling, are destroying our country from within. And the pace of the decay is quickened, and the extent has broadened. 3 paragraphs from the new book, The Democrat Party Hates America. It is a longer book, and so from time to time I'm going to be pulling little passages out. I'm not going to I'll use the word monopolize the program with it. But the purpose of this book is it's relatable to everything that's taking place in this country. Everything. What I just read to you there is the nature of the Democrat Party. And what I say later, and I won't read it to you, I'll just tell you, is that the Democrat Party is not merely a political party. It's a cultural party. It's not merely a cultural party. It is the federal government's party. It is the party of government. That is, as Jerome puts it, it is the party of the state. This is a very different characterization of what's going on in this country. Of a Republican Party, whatever you think of it, it's a political party. It's not a cultural party. It's not the party of the state. It doesn't have control over the bureaucracy and on and on. The Democrat Party has that and more. Have you ever thought to yourself, why does the Democrat Party insist on shutting down the government if it can't spend all this money? Because when you shut down the government, you actually stop the flow of money, at least for a period of time. And the answer is this. Just like Xi in China, Marxist regimes, they play long ball. The Democrat Party will defend the bureaucracy to the end. It insists on expanding it. It insists on making it immune from oversight. So you have a civil service, you have public sector unions, you have the impossibility of moving people out of positions. When's the last time a department was eliminated? They're never eliminated. How about an agency? They're never eliminated. They're expanded, or perhaps they're combined. They become increasingly powerful. They're reaching into your homes. They're reaching into your automobiles. They're reaching into your lives. They're reaching into your children's lives. And it's going to get far worse before it gets better. Why? Because until we accept the fact, recognize it, and tell our fellow citizens, our family members, the Democrat Party is not merely a political party. It is the party of the state. And it wants complete monopolistic control. And so even though people go through the motions of voting, it's the Democrat Party's position and activism that seeks to make it irrelevant whether you vote or not. Because they're the state party. And they will call the shots no matter what. Just another tiny little glimpse into the Democrat Party Hates America. I hope you'll grab your pre-orders as quickly as possible. As soon as it comes out, I want you to have it in your hands so we can really jump into this. We have an election coming up, and I think this is very, very important. It's important that our focus be on how diabolical and evil the Democrat Party is. So you can grab your copy right now at Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, online.